The war had ended only minutes ago, but the air inside the shattered palace still burned with smoke and heat. The sky above the alien capital glowed red from falling ships, broken towers, and drifting fire. Soldiers lay silent across the black stone floor, some human, some alien, all victims of a battle that no one truly won. In the center of the ruin, behind a wall of cracked crystal pillars, the most powerful being in the galaxy was kneeling. Queen Earthes of the Zyran Empire was injured. Her silver battle armor, once smooth and shining like liquid metal, was torn open at the chest and shoulder. Blue energy leaked from thin fractures across the surface, flickering like a dying star. Her breathing sounded heavy, not weak, but strained, like a machine working beyond its limit. Around her, her royal guards were gone. The last of them had fallen protecting her retreat. The empire that once ruled hundreds of systems had just suffered its first real defeat. And standing only 3 steps away from her was a human. Elias Ward was not a general, not a hero, not even a high-ranking officer. He was a combat mechanic, trained to repair weapons, armor, and broken machines during battle. His hands were steady, his mind practical, his rank low. He was never meant to stand this close to an alien queen. 2 alien commanders argued near the doorway, their tall forms shaking with anger. They demanded the queen be taken to a secure chamber. They demanded human prisoners be removed. They demanded control. Queen Earthes raised one hand, and the room fell silent. "Leave us," she said calmly. Her voice was not loud, but it carried authority that pressed against the walls like gravity. The commanders hesitated, then obeyed. The heavy doors sealed shut, locking Elias inside alone with her. His heart began to pound harder. This was wrong. This was dangerous. Humans were still considered enemies. Even after a ceasefire, trust did not exist. The queen slowly turned her head toward him. Her glowing violet eyes studied him carefully, not with hatred, but with something harder to read. "You repair armor," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Elias answered quietly. He did not bow, he did not step back, he simply waited. She extended one arm slightly, exposing the cracked plating near her shoulder. Blue sparks jumped across the surface. "Fix it," she said. Elias swallowed. He stepped forward carefully. Each movement felt like stepping toward the mouth of a predator. Up close, her size was overwhelming. She was taller even while kneeling. Her presence felt heavy, powerful, ancient. He opened his repair kit, small compared to her advanced technology. He connected a scanner to the broken armor seam. Numbers and warnings flashed across his screen. And then he froze. The damage was worse than it looked. The armor was not just armor. It was a living energy system. It fed power directly into her body. It regulated her strength, her defenses, even her heartbeat. The core energy inside the chest plate was unstable. If it shut down completely, she would not survive. He tried to keep his face calm, but she noticed the slight pause in his hands. "Speak," she said. "The core is failing," Elias replied honestly. "If it collapses, the energy surge will be fatal." Silence filled the chamber. Outside, distant explosions echoed across the city. The queen did not react with fear. She did not show panic. Instead, she leaned slightly closer to him. Too close. Her shadow covered him completely. Her presence surrounded him like a wall. "Then repair it," she said softly. Elias adjusted his tools, rerouting energy through damaged conduits. His hands moved faster now, focus controlled. He felt her watching him the entire time. Every breath she took felt measured, steady, but there was tension under it. As he reached toward the central seam near her chest core, her armored hand suddenly closed around his wrist. Not tight enough to crush, but strong enough to remind him of her power. He looked up quickly, meeting her glowing eyes. For a second, neither of them moved. "Stay close, human," she said quietly. The words were not a threat. They sounded almost like instruction, or maybe protection. He did not understand why. The scanner beeped again, a deeper warning this time. Someone had accessed her internal armor systems remotely. Elias' eyes widened. "This damage," he whispered, It was not just battle impact. She already knew. There are those who believe I should not survive this war, she said calmly. Betrayal. Inside her own empire. Another alert flashed on his device. The energy core was not only failing, it had been sabotaged, slowly drained from within. If she died now, her people would blame the humans. And if her empire blamed Earth, the fragile ceasefire would end instantly. A new war would begin. Bigger, bloodier, final. Elias' pulse raced as he worked faster, rerouting power through emergency circuits that were never designed for alien systems. Sweat rolled down his face. The Queen lowered her head slightly closer to him, shielding him from the open chamber door, almost as if she were guarding him. "You are afraid?" she observed. "Yes," he admitted, "but I'm still working." For the first time, something shifted in her expression, a small, unreadable change. Respect, maybe. Outside the sealed chamber, footsteps echoed, not official, not disciplined. Hunters moving quietly. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "They are coming," she said. Elias' hands moved even faster, trying to stabilize the dying core. The door locks flickered. Whoever was outside was trying to override the system. The Queen's grip on his wrist tightened slightly, not in threat, but in warning. "Stay close, human," she repeated, and this time Elias understood. If the assassins entered, he would be standing between them and the most powerful being in the galaxy. And for reasons he did not yet understand. She wanted him there. If you want to see what happens next, and how a simple human mechanic becomes part of something far bigger than war, gently consider subscribing to this channel so you do not miss the next part of the story. The override attempt stopped as suddenly as it had started, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the explosions outside. Elias did not look toward the door again. He kept his eyes on the open armor panel glowing in front of him, because looking at fear would only make it stronger. Queen Earthes slowly released his wrist, but she did not move away. She remained close enough that he could feel the low vibration of power moving through her damaged armor. Unstable, but alive. "You have skill," she said quietly. "I have training," Elias replied, adjusting a thin energy filament inside her chest plate. She studied him again, not like a ruler judging a prisoner, but like a scientist observing a rare specimen. "Your kind should hate mine," she said. "That would be easier," Elias answered honestly. Outside the chamber walls, alarms echoed across the broken palace. Not battle alarms this time, but internal security alerts. Someone inside the Empire was still trying to take control. The Queen lifted her head slightly, listening to the distant signals that only her enhanced senses could fully understand. "They move too quickly," she said, almost to herself. This was prepared long before the war ended. Elias connected a stabilizer from his kit to her failing core. He rerouted a small stream of power through a manual regulator. It was risky. Human tools were not designed for alien royal armor, but he had no other choice. The core light flickered, then steadied slightly. "It is holding," he said, "for now." "For now," she repeated calmly. He hesitated before speaking again, but curiosity pushed the words out. "If your people planned this, why call me in here alone?" She turned her glowing eyes toward him fully this time. "Because I trust you more than I trust them." The answer felt impossible. "You invaded Earth," Elias said carefully. "Your fleets burned cities. Your soldiers called us primitive." "Yes," she said without denial. "And yet you survived." Her voice carried something different now. Not pride, not anger, but reflection. "You adapt faster than any species we have studied," she continued. "You're physically weaker, your technology less refined, your lifespan short, and still you fight like cornered stars." Elias did not know if that was an insult or respect. "Our generals believed fear would break your world," she said. "Instead, it united it." He tightened a final connection and sealed part of the fractured plate temporarily. The energy flow stabilized another fraction. "You studied us," he said slowly. "For years," she replied. Images flashed briefly across a small projection from her armor interface. Human cities, battle footage, medical camps, families rebuilding broken homes, soldiers carrying wounded strangers. You show attachment even to those outside your bloodlines, she said. You sacrifice for ideas, not just survival. That is called hope, Elias answered. Her eyes narrowed slightly. In my empire, hope is considered a weakness. Another distant explosion shook the palace foundation. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elias sealed the core panel halfway, but left access open in case he needed to adjust again. If your people hate humans, he said, why protect me? She did not answer immediately. Instead, she slowly stood to her full height, towering above him. Though still injured, power hummed louder through her partially repaired armor. My council believes humans are dangerous because you are unpredictable, she said. They believe extermination is the only path to safety. And you? Elias asked. I believe extinction is the path of the fearful, she said. Her words felt heavier than weapons. Your species changes when pressured, she continued. You invent, you unite, you endure. My empire once had those traits. Once, Elias repeated quietly. Centuries of dominance remove them, she said. When no enemy challenges you, you begin to rot from within. Another security alert flashed across her internal display. This one was closer. They will accuse me of weakness, she said. They will say I protect a human because I am compromised. Are you? Elias asked carefully. For the first time, something almost like amusement touched her expression. No, she said. I am calculating. She stepped toward the chamber wall and activated a hidden projection. A map of the Empire appeared, several systems already showing unrest signals. The war with Earth was not meant to conquer, she said. It was meant to test. Test what? Elias asked. Whether my empire still remembers how to struggle, she answered. The realization hit him slowly. You started a war to wake your own people up. Yes, she said calmly, but they chose betrayal instead. A deep impact slammed against the outer corridor. The door shields flickered under heavy force. They come, she said quietly. You're assassins, Elias said. Not mine, she corrected. The Empire's. The truth settled between them like cold air. If she fell now, it would not be because of humans. It would be because her own people feared change. Elias glanced at the partially repaired core. It will not last long under combat stress, he warned. It does not need to, she replied. Another blast struck the outer door, metal groaned. Elias grabbed his sidearm instinctively, though he knew it would barely scratch elite alien warriors. She looked down at the weapon briefly, then back at him. You remain, she said. You asked me to stay close, he answered. Her gaze held his for a moment longer than necessary. Yes, she said softly. The final lock on the chamber door shattered. Sparks exploded inward as armored figures forced their way through the smoke. Tall, silver-armored royal enforcers stepped into the chamber, weapons raised. Your reign ends now, one of them declared. Elias stepped instinctively in front of the damaged core panel, shielding the most fragile part of her armor with his own body. The assassins hesitated for only half a second, confused by the human's position. That half-second was enough. The queen moved. Even injured, she was terrifying. Energy surged through the repaired conduits Elias had stabilized. Not perfect, not safe, but powerful enough. The chamber filled with blinding violet light as she struck the first attacker across the room. Elias fired his weapon toward the ceiling supports instead of at the warriors, bringing down fractured crystal pillars onto their formation. Human strategy, alien power, side by side. As the fight erupted fully, one of the attackers shouted through the chaos. She protects the human. Another voice followed, louder, angrier. She betrays her own blood. The accusation echoed louder than the weapons. And in that moment, Elias understood something chilling. If she survived this, the real war would not be against Earth. It would be inside her own empire. The chamber filled with smoke and shattered crystal as the assassins advanced without fear. Their armor was darker than the queen's royal silver, marked with sharp red lines that glowed like warning scars. These were not simple soldiers. These were shadow blades, elite enforcers trained only for one purpose: remove threats to the Empire from within. And tonight, their queen was the threat. Elias felt the heat of energy bolts pass close to his shoulder as he rolled behind a fallen pillar. His human weapon was small compared to alien rifles, but he did not aim for armor. He aimed for joints, for light panels, for the floor beneath their feet. He did not fight stronger, he fought smarter. Queen Earthes moved like a storm barely held together. Her damaged core flickered with every heavy strike. Violet energy flashed from her hands as she threw one assassin into the far wall, cracking black stone like glass. But each movement cost her stability. The temporary repairs were holding, but barely. One shadow blade noticed the exposed seam in her chest plate. "Target the core," he ordered coldly. Elias saw it before she did. The assassin's weapon shifted direction, charging for a focus blast. Without thinking, Elias ran forward. He slammed his toolkit directly into the assassin's arm, knocking the aim slightly off balance. The energy blast fired wide, slicing through the chamber's ceiling instead of her chest. Stone and debris rained down. The queen's eyes flashed toward Elias for a brief second. Not anger, not command. Recognition. Two more assassins moved from opposite sides, trying to separate them, trying to isolate her from the human. She weakens herself, protecting him. One of them hissed through comms. Elias heard it through the broken audio feed on his wrist scanner. So that was their strategy. Use him as distraction. Force her to divide attention. He made a fast decision, one that could end him. He ran directly away from her, toward the far end of the chamber. "Human," one assassin growled, shifting target immediately. Good, Elias thought. If they chased him, they would expose their backs to her. Energy bolts chased him across the floor. He dove behind a shattered console, breathing hard, mind racing. He pulled a small pulse detonator from his belt, not a lethal bomb, but an EMP charge designed for battlefield repairs. He waited. Two shadow blades advanced carefully toward him, weapons raised, confident. At the last second, he triggered the pulse. A blue shockwave rippled outward, disrupting their armor sensors and momentarily freezing their movement. It lasted only 3 seconds, but 3 seconds were enough. The queen struck from behind them like lightning, her energy blade slicing cleanly through one attacker's weapon arm. The second was thrown across the chamber before his systems rebooted. The temporary silence that followed felt sharp, like the pause before another storm. But it was not over. Heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor beyond the broken door. More of them, not just assassins. A full internal purge unit. Elias' heart pounded harder. This was never a small rebellion, he said between breaths. No, the queen replied calmly, though her core flickered again, weaker this time. This is a coup. The next wave entered in disciplined formation, carrying heavy disruptor cannons, weapons powerful enough to damage royal armor. "Stand down, Earthes," their leader commanded. "The council declares you unfit to rule." The queen straightened despite her unstable core, towering even in damaged armor. "I am the Empire," she answered coldly. "You protect the human," the leader accused. "You delay his execution. You dismiss loyal commanders. You risk our future." "Our future," she said slowly, "is not secured by fear." The leader did not respond with words. He raised his weapon instead. Elias knew what would happen next. Her core could not handle another sustained blast. If they hit her directly now, the unstable energy could cascade. She would fall, and Earth would burn for it. He looked around quickly, calculating angles, broken structures, exposed conduits. Then he saw it, a fractured energy line running along the wall, feeding power to the chamber's defense grid. A risky idea formed instantly. "Your Majesty," Elias said quickly, still using formal tone out of instinct, "draw them forward." She did not ask how. She simply trusted. She stepped into the center of the chamber, fully exposed, violet energy building around her like a warning. The purge unit fired together. At the last second, Elias shot the fractured conduit. The chamber's emergency defense grid overloaded violently, redirecting a burst of stored energy into the center of the room. The blast struck both attackers and Queen alike, but she was prepared. She absorbed part of the surge into her unstable core, stabilizing it for a brief second, while the purge unit took the full reflected shock. Armor cracked, systems fried, soldiers collapsed. When the light faded, only smoke remained. The remaining assassins pulled back slightly, stunned by what they just witnessed. The human was not hiding behind her. He was fighting beside her. One injured shadow blade crawled backward, staring at them both. "She chooses the human over blood," he whispered. The word spread through open comm channels, broadcasting beyond the chamber. Elias realized something dangerous. This was no longer secret. The entire palace would know, maybe the entire empire. The queen slowly turned her gaze toward the surviving assassin. "I choose survival," she corrected. With one final motion, she ended the threat. Silence returned again, thicker this time. Elias stood there breathing hard, staring at the destruction around them. "You could have let them kill me," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied, "but you did not." "No," she agreed calmly. Heavy emergency sirens began to rise across the capital city. Not war sirens, not invasion alerts. Civil uprising signals. The coup had begun openly, and now the entire empire would be forced to choose sides. The queen looked down at Elias again, her core still unstable but glowing stronger than before. "This is no longer about war with Earth," she said. "It is about what my empire becomes." Footsteps echoed again from distant corridors, not attackers this time, but loyalists rushing toward her signal. The palace was dividing, bloodlines against vision, tradition against change. Elias felt the weight of something larger than himself settle onto his shoulders. He was no longer just a mechanic caught in the wrong room. He was standing at the center of an alien civil war, and the most powerful being in the galaxy had chosen to stand beside him. The palace did not feel like a palace anymore. It felt like a heart splitting into two halves, one side still loyal to tradition and control, the other beginning to question everything they had believed for centuries. Queen Earthes walked through a hidden corridor beneath the throne chamber, her steps steady but slower than before. The temporary repair Elias had done was holding, but the core inside her armor pulsed unevenly, like a storm trying to calm itself. Behind them, distant clashes echoed through the structure, loyal guards fighting shadow blades, brother against brother. Elias followed closely, carrying his damaged toolkit in one hand. His mind was racing faster than the battle above. "You said this war was a test," he finally said, breaking the silence. "You started it to wake your empire up." She did not stop walking. "Yes," she replied simply. "That cost millions of lives," Elias said quietly. "Yes," she answered again, no defense in her voice. The corridor lights flickered as emergency power shifted across the city. "For centuries," she continued, "the Zyran Empire faced no true threat. We expanded, we controlled, we demanded obedience, but without struggle, strength decays." Elias listened carefully. "Our people once felt fear," she said. "We once felt love, loss, curiosity. We evolved beyond those things to survive endless wars long ago. Emotions became inefficiency. And humans still have them," Elias said. "Yes," she replied, her voice lowering slightly. They reached a secure chamber hidden deep below the palace, a room not marked on official maps, a place of study, not war. The walls were lined with data crystals, projections, recordings from distant systems. Elias froze when he saw the images playing softly across one wall. Earth cities, human families rebuilding after invasion strikes, rescue workers pulling strangers from ruins, soldiers shielding civilians, children drawing alien ships not with hatred, but curiosity. "You watched us," he said slowly. "For years before invasion," she replied. "You could have destroyed us quickly," Elias said. "Yes," she agreed. "But you did not." "No." She approached one projection showing a human medic treating an injured alien prisoner during an early battle. Your kind protects enemies once they are helpless, she said. My council saw weakness. I saw potential. Elias did not respond immediately. In my empire, she continued, we removed emotional attachment generations ago. It made us efficient, logical, unstoppable, but it also made us fragile in ways we did not see. Fragile how? Elias asked. When betrayal came tonight, she said calmly, it came from ambition, not hatred, from calculation, not passion. My people no longer understand loyalty beyond power. The truth hung heavy in the chamber. You think humans can change that? Elias said. I think humans remind us of what we abandoned, she replied. She turned to face him fully, her violet eyes glowing softly in the dim chamber light. Emotion creates chaos, she said, but it also creates resilience. Your species should have collapsed under our first assault. Instead, you united, you adapted, you sacrificed for each other. That is not special, Elias said. It is rare, she corrected gently. A sudden tremor shook the lower chamber, dust falling from the ceiling. The civil war above was spreading fast. If your council finds out about this room, Elias said, about these studies, they will call you a traitor. They already have, she replied calmly. He stepped closer to the projection wall. You risked your throne for this, he said quietly. I risked my throne for survival, she answered. She moved toward a central console and activated a hidden archive. One final recording appeared, older than the rest. It showed an ancient Zyran battlefield from centuries ago, warriors fighting with fierce emotion in their eyes, protecting one another, mourning fallen comrades. That was us, she said softly, before we chose efficiency over feeling. What changed? Elias asked. We believed emotion caused weakness in war, she said, so we engineered it out of ourselves over generations, removed attachment, removed hesitation. We became perfect rulers. And lost something, Elias said. Yes, she replied. Silence filled the chamber again, but it was not empty silence. It was realization. You invaded Earth not to conquer, Elias said slowly, but to see if we would break. Yes, she admitted, and when we did not, I knew my empire was already weaker than yours, she finished. Another violent explosion echoed above, louder than before. Her internal comm system flashed urgently. Loyal commanders requesting immediate direction. Rebel fleets seizing orbital platforms. They move faster than predicted, she said quietly. You can still crush them, Elias said. You have loyal forces. I can, she agreed. But if I crush them without changing anything, the cycle repeats. Elias looked at her carefully. What are you planning? He asked. She stepped closer to him again, just like in the throne chamber. You will remain by my side, she said calmly. That is not safe for me, Elias replied honestly. It is not safe for me either, she said. Outside, alarms shifted tone, indicating that sections of the palace had fallen under rebel control. If I rule as before, my empire survives but rots, she continued. If I rule differently, I may lose everything. And you choose differently, Elias said. Yes. Her hand lifted slightly, almost reaching toward him, then stopping halfway. You are proof, she said, that weakness can become strength. Before Elias could respond, the chamber lights dimmed suddenly. A new signal cut through her system, not from rebels, from orbit. Earth warships had entered the edge of Zyran space. They think you are dead, Elias said quietly. Yes, she replied, and if they learn you survived, they will strike before I regain stability, she finished. Now the situation was worse than civil war. Two worlds stood ready to collide again. The Queen looked at him with an intensity that felt almost human. If Earth attacks while my empire is divided, she said, both species may fall. Elias felt the weight of history pressing down on this hidden chamber. So what do we do? He asked. She turned toward the central communication console. We change the future, she said. Above them, the palace shook again. Below them, a dangerous alliance was forming. And across the stars, two civilizations were seconds away from making the wrong decision. Orbit above the Zyran capital filled with cold metal and silent tension. Human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in tight formation, engines glowing white against the dark edge of space. They did not fire immediately. They waited, scanning the battlefield below. On Earth, leaders had watched the invasion burn their cities. They had buried their dead, rebuilt their fleets, and promised never to be caught unprepared again. When their intelligence detected chaos inside the Zyran Empire, they saw opportunity, not diplomacy. Strike while the queen is weak, and the threat permanently. Inside the hidden chamber beneath the palace, Queen Earthes felt the arrival of the human fleet before official signals confirmed it. Her armor vibrated faintly as orbital defenses began to activate automatically. "They move with discipline," she said quietly, studying the tactical projection forming in the air. "They are afraid," Elias replied. Fear had built those ships. Fear had sharpened human strategy. The projection showed Zyran defense platforms powering up across orbit, massive ring structures capable of tearing through entire fleets. But half of them were under rebel control now, flashing red on the map. "This is what your council wanted," Elias said slowly. "Two wars at once." "Yes," she replied. "If Earth attacks while my empire is divided, they can claim I caused extinction." Above them, the first warning beam flashed across space, a human cruiser testing range. Not a direct strike, but a message. "We are ready." Rebel commanders inside the Zyran fleet responded first, launching interceptors without waiting for royal command. The civil war just spilled into orbit. Elias watched the projection carefully, his mind working through patterns. "Your loyal forces are holding back," he observed. "They wait for my order," she said. "If you attack the human fleet now," Elias said, "they will think the war never ended." "And if I do nothing," she replied, "the rebels may fire first and make peace impossible." The tension in the chamber felt sharper than any weapon. Suddenly the projection shifted. A rebel-controlled defense ring rotated toward the human fleet, charging its main cannon. "They will fire," Elias said. "And blame it on me," she finished. Without hesitation, she opened a command channel to her loyal admirals. "Disable defense ring 3 immediately," she ordered. "Your Majesty, that will expose the capital," one admiral protested. "Do it," she repeated. In orbit, loyalist ships surged forward, not to attack humans, but to intercept their own defense platform. A violent exchange erupted between Zyran ships, violet beams slicing across the void. From a human perspective, it looked like full engagement had begun. Human commanders tightened formation, missile pods opening like metal wings. Elias stared at the map, calculating fast. "They are forming a defensive wall," he said. "They expect heavy frontal assault." "That is standard Zyran strategy," she replied. "Then do not give them what they expect," Elias said firmly. She turned toward him slightly. "Explain," she said. He stepped closer to the projection, pointing at the outer edge of the formation. "Human fleets do not win by strength," he said. "We win by confusion, small strike groups, fast vectors, sudden flanks." He highlighted a cluster of human frigates positioned far from the main fleet. "They're not retreating," he said. "They are waiting to break formation and hit from the side." She studied the pattern for a second longer. "Your species fights like predators with no size advantage," she observed. "We learn from fighting bigger enemies," Elias answered. A rebel cruiser suddenly broke from formation and fired directly at a human carrier. The blast tore through its shields, scattering debris across space. That was enough. The human fleet responded fully. Missiles streaked across the void like falling stars. Zyran loyalists and rebels both became targets. War between two worlds ignited again. Inside the chamber, alarms screamed as orbital damage reports flooded in. "You must speak to them," Elias said urgently. "If they think you are dead, they will not stop." "And if I reveal myself too early," she replied, "rebels will broadcast it as manipulation." Another explosion lit the projection. A loyalist ship sacrificed itself to block a rebel blast aimed at Earth vessels. They are dying for your command, Elias said quietly. She did not respond immediately. Her core flickered again under stress, the temporary repairs shaking as she processed battle data at immense speed. Open a narrowband channel, she ordered finally. To Earth Fleet Command, Elias asked. No, she said, to the human flagship only. The signal cut through layers of static and interference, locking onto one vessel at the center of the human formation. A human admiral appeared on the projection, his face tense. This is Admiral Reyes of the United Earth Fleet, he said sharply. Identify yourself. Queen Earthes stepped forward into the transmission light. This is Queen Earthes of the Zyran Empire, she said calmly. Silence followed on both sides of space. Reyes' expression hardened. Your forces have engaged ours, he said. My rebel forces have, she corrected. My empire is divided. That sounds like internal weakness, Reyes replied. Not our problem. Elias stepped closer to the projection, careful but firm. Sir, he said, this is Elias Ward. Reyes' eyes widened slightly, recognizing the name from battlefield reports. You are in alien custody, the Admiral said. No, Elias answered. I am standing beside her by choice. The words felt dangerous, but necessary. Behind the Admiral, tactical officers shouted as another rebel strike hit a human destroyer. You have 30 seconds, Reyes said coldly. Queen Earthes did not raise her voice. If I fall today, she said, my empire will unite under those who believe extinction is safer than coexistence. And why should we trust you? Reyes demanded. Elias looked at the projection, then at the queen beside him. Because she could have killed me many times, he said, and she did not. Another blast shook orbit, a human missile locking onto a Royal-class Zyran ship. The countdown timer appeared on the projection, 10 seconds. The ship targeted was not a rebel vessel. It was the Queen's flagship. Reyes saw it too late. Redirect that missile, he ordered. Unable, his officer replied. Guidance locked. Inside the hidden chamber, the projection zoomed in on the incoming missile streaking toward the Queen's command ship. If it hit, the fragile balance would collapse completely. Civil war would end in chaos. Earth would face united retaliation, and everything they were trying to prevent would become unstoppable. Elias stared at the approaching impact marker. 7 seconds. The Queen did not move. 6 seconds. Her eyes remained calm. 5 seconds. He understood what she was doing. If she stopped the missile herself, Earth would see aggression. If she allowed it to strike, her loyalists would turn against humanity. For seconds, there was no perfect move left. 3 seconds. Elias stepped forward toward the console controls and made a decision that would change both worlds forever. 3 seconds before impact, Elias did not think about rank, orders, or survival. He thought about consequences. If that missile destroyed the Queen's flagship, every loyalist in orbit would see it as betrayal. The rebels would cheer, Earth would prepare for total retaliation, and whatever small chance of change existed would die in fire. He moved fast, overriding the chamber console with manual access codes he had no right to know. The Queen watched him, not stopping him, not questioning him. What are you doing? One of her loyal commanders demanded through comms. Trust him, she said calmly. 2 seconds. Elias rerouted the narrowband channel to full broadcast range, linking it not only to the human flagship, but to every Zyran ship still loyal to the throne. 1 second. He slammed his hand onto the emergency override switch. In orbit, the Queen's flagship powered its forward shields to maximum, not to defend itself, but to expand them outward in a wide arc. The missile struck. The explosion lit the darkness of space like a newborn star. But the shield expansion absorbed the blast and dispersed the energy outward, protecting both the flagship and the nearby human destroyer caught in the shockwave. The cost was immediate. The Queen's flagship lost half its power grid, drifting slightly off formation. Inside the hidden chamber, Queen Earthes' core surged violently from the feedback connection. Her armor cracked further along the chest seam, violet light spilling through the fractures. She staggered for the first time. Elias caught her instinctively, though she was twice his size and infinitely stronger. Her hand gripped his shoulder, not for dominance, but for balance. Across orbit, both fleets froze for a brief second. The broadcast channel carried the full visual of what had happened. The Zyran Queen had shielded a human ship. Not attacked it, shielded it. Admiral Reyes stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "She protected us," one of his officers whispered. On rebel channels, anger exploded. "She weakens our strike. She sacrifices advantage. She chooses humans over blood." But among loyalist ships, something else moved through the comm network. Confusion, doubt, and for the first time, curiosity. Inside the chamber, alarm screamed as the Queen's armor stability dropped to critical levels. "You pushed the core too far," Elias said urgently, scanning the damage. "It was necessary," she replied, her voice lower now, strained but controlled. Above them, rebel cruisers began repositioning, unsure whether to continue firing. Elias stepped back toward the console, opening a new channel to Earth's fleet. "Admiral Reyes," he said firmly. The Admiral's face returned to the projection, tension still sharp in his eyes. "She saved your destroyer," Elias said. "You saw it." Reyes hesitated, then nodded once. "That does not erase what her empire did," the Admiral replied. "No," Elias agreed, "but it proves something else." Queen Earthes stepped forward despite the flickering damage in her armor. "My empire is divided," she said clearly, her voice now broadcasting to both fleets, "but I will not allow extinction to define its future." She raised one arm slowly, deactivating all offensive commands from loyalist ships. "Stand down," she ordered her fleet. The words carried through space like a shockwave. Several loyal commanders hesitated. "Your Majesty, this exposes us," one protested. "Yes," she answered calmly. "We obey," another said quietly. One by one, loyalist ships powered down primary weapons, leaving only defensive shields active. The rebels, seeing hesitation, prepared to fire again. But something unexpected happened. Two rebel frigates broke formation and drifted backward instead of advancing, their commanders refusing to fire while the Queen openly sought ceasefire. Divisions spread through the rebel ranks. Civil war cracked further. Admiral Reyes studied the battlefield carefully. "If we continue firing," he said slowly, "we unite them against us. And if you withdraw," Elias replied, "you give her a chance to finish this from inside." Silence stretched between worlds again. Finally, Reyes gave the order. "All Earth vessels, hold position, defensive posture only." Missile bays closed, cannons powered down. The battlefield fell into an uneasy pause. Inside the chamber, Queen Earthy's core flickered dangerously again. Elias quickly moved back to her side, sealing another fracture in the chest plate with emergency bonding foam. "You cannot keep doing that," he said quietly. "Change requires risk," she replied softly. Above them, rebel command channels fractured further, accusations flying, loyalty questioned. "She risks everything for a human," one rebel leader shouted. "No," a loyalist countered. "She risks everything for survival." The narrative was shifting, not because of weapons, but because of choice. Queen Earthes slowly reached up toward the crown crest embedded in her armor, the symbol of absolute authority over the Zyran Empire. With deliberate movement, she detached it, the metal crest sliding free from her shoulder plating. Gasps echoed across loyalist channels. "Your Majesty," several commanders whispered. She turned toward Elias and placed the crest into his hands. The chamber fell completely silent. The symbol of Zyran rule now rested in human fingers. "This is not surrender," she said calmly. "It is evolution." Across orbit, both fleets watched the transmission in disbelief. In that single moment, centuries of tradition fractured. A queen had not chosen blood. She had chosen possibility, and the choice changed everything. The image of the Zyran crown resting in human hands spread across every command channel in orbit, across Loyalist fleets, rebel squadrons, and even Earth's warships. No one had prepared for this. No one had predicted it. For centuries, the crown crest symbolized absolute authority, bloodline above all, power without question. To remove it publicly was not weakness, it was revolution. Inside the hidden chamber, Elias stared at the cold metal in his palms. It felt heavier than it looked, not because of weight, but because of meaning. "You place your empire at risk," he said quietly. "I place it at crossroads," Queen Earthes replied. Her voice was weaker now, but steady. Above them, rebel commanders reacted with fury. "She has lost control. She submits to a human. She dishonors our ancestors." But among the wider fleet, something unexpected happened. Some ships did not move. Some weapons remained offline. Some captains hesitated. Doubt was spreading faster than rebellion. Admiral Reyes watched the Zyran civil channels carefully from the human flagship. "They are arguing," one of his officers said. "They are thinking," Reyes corrected quietly. In orbit, a massive rebel dreadnought slowly turned toward the capital, charging its main cannon. "They will try to end this with spectacle," Elias said, seeing the tactical shift. "Yes," the Queen answered. "They believe fear restores order." The dreadnought fired. A single devastating beam aimed directly at the palace core, not to kill the Queen, but to erase the symbol of her rule completely. If the capital fell, loyalists would scatter, rebels would claim victory, and Earth would face a united but hardened empire. Elias did not hesitate. "Open a full system broadcast," he said urgently. The Queen nodded once, granting full command access. Elias stepped into the projection field, still holding the crown crest. "My name is Elias Ward," he said clearly, his voice transmitted to every Zyran vessel and every human ship in orbit. "I am human." The dreadnought's beam continued charging in the background. "Your Queen could have let my world burn," he continued. "She could have let me die tonight. She could have answered fear with destruction." He lifted the crown slightly. Instead, she chose to protect both worlds. The beam fired, but before it reached the palace, 3 Zyran cruisers shifted into its path, raising their shields together. The blast struck them instead. 2 shields collapsed instantly. 1 cruiser broke apart in silence, but the beam weakened enough for the palace defense grid to absorb the rest. Across the fleet, a wave of realization moved through commanders. The first sacrifice had been made not by rebels, but by loyalists defending change. Queen Earthes stepped beside Elias in the projection field, her damaged armor glowing faintly but still active. "My people," she said calmly, "for generations we believed dominance ensured survival. Tonight you have seen its flaw." The rebel dreadnought prepared to fire again. "If we unite through fear, we will rule briefly," she continued. "If we unite through understanding, we may endure." A long pause stretched across space. Then something shifted. The rebel dreadnought's escort ships slowly powered down weapons, one by one, their commanders refusing to fire a second time. The dreadnought itself hesitated, isolated. "Stand down," a new voice cut across rebel channels. It belonged to one of the senior fleet strategists. "The Empire fractures further if we continue." The dreadnought's cannon dimmed. Civil war did not end with explosion. It ended with refusal. In orbit, Earth's fleet held position, watching carefully. Admiral Reyes exhaled slowly. "Maintain defensive posture," he ordered. "No advance." Inside the chamber, Elias lowered the crown crest slightly. "It worked," he said quietly. "For now," the Queen replied. Days passed in tense negotiation between Zyran factions. Some rebel leaders surrendered, some were arrested, some fled to distant systems. The Empire did not collapse. It changed. Queen Earthes restructured the High Council, removing bloodline-only authority and introducing strategic councils that included scientific and diplomatic voices. For the first time in Zyran history, a non-Zyran advisor was invited to sit within strategic planning chambers. Elias did not accept a throne. He accepted a seat, not as ruler, not as conqueror, but as bridge. Earth and Zyran diplomats began slow talks under heavy security. The memory of war still fresh, trust fragile. Some humans protested cooperation. Some Zyran generals remained skeptical. But trade routes reopened cautiously. Joint research projects began. Two civilizations that once prepared extinction protocols now exchanged knowledge. One evening, high above the capital city, Elias stood on a balcony overlooking rebuilt towers and orbital lights returning to stable patterns. Queen Earthes joined him quietly, her armor now fully repaired but redesigned, less severe, less symbolic of dominance. "You altered the crown," Elias observed, noticing the simpler crest now resting on her shoulder. "Yes," she said, "symbols must evolve with meaning." Below them, both Zyran and human delegates moved through shared corridors under guarded peace. "You trusted a human mechanic," Elias said softly. "I trusted potential," she replied. The stars above looked the same as they had during war, but they no longer felt like battlefields. She turned slightly toward him, her violet eyes calm. "Stay close, human," she said once more. This time, there was no command in her voice, only trust. And in the quiet that followed, a new empire did not rise through conquest. It began through choice.